Welcome to another episode of The Art of Volunteering. I'm your host, Stormy Bell. And today I have a friend who's kind of new to the podcast, but I'm so excited for our conversation. His name is Sean Halloran. Got that right. He's
Got
the
it.
executive director of the Barnstone Art for Kids, and that's in Phoenixville, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, very good. So, welcome. I'm so glad that you're able to join us.
Thank you so much for having me, Stormy. I'm really, really happy to be here and to talk about volunteering and talk about the work we're doing here at Barnstone.
Awesome. All right. Sean joined Barnstone as a mentor and became a member of the board in 2017. As an art therapist and psychologist, Sean brings a wealth of relevant knowledge to Barnstone Art for Kids. Sean has spent over 20 years in the nonprofit mental health world, working with children and families as both a clinician and a program administrator leader. His work in program development and leadership have included the integration of trauma-informed practices at both the programmatic and the organizational levels. As both a supporter and a volunteer mentor at Barnstone Art for Kids, Sean was instrumental in monitoring the program and evaluation tools for the power of art. In July of 2019, Sean became the executive director of Barnstone Art for Kids, and he remains on the board as a non-voting member. Love it. Absolutely love it.
All accurate. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, that's what we have to do sometimes. All right, let's start with like the origin story. Like, what's the history behind Barnstone Art for Kids?
It's a really, really inspiring story. My predecessor and our founder, Lynn Detweiler, was in this space, in this barn, which was, a historic barn itself, and had led many lives. Lynn and the Detweiler family had taken possession of the barn decades ago, but she was running this space specifically as an art gallery, a Barnstone Gallery, for the years into 2000 and leading into 2010 when it was around 2010, 2011. She had a light bulb moment where she observed a young person interacting with an artist and having a really meaningful connection, knowing that this young person was someone who had struggled and is at risk, right? And that light bulb moment gave birth to Art for Kids, which Lynn iterated, really did her homework, and really looked at how she could leverage the power of art to serve children in our community, and found, really that ACEs was or were an effective tool or an effective sort of focus for this work. And ACEs relate to or refer to adverse childhood experiences, right? So, childhood trauma. She saw that art was able to be used and, uh, uh, alongside mentors to help these kids mitigate the symptoms of childhood trauma, which, in 2012, she received the 501c3 and began delivering Power of Art to the Phoenixville community, but also actually in the larger Chester County community. I joined as a mentor, I think, in about 2014, and we were doing Power of Art sessions with the Chester County Domestic Violence Center over in Westchester. So Lynn's approach to this was empirical. She saw an opportunity to serve. She did her homework and really came up with something that was impactful for the kids that she was serving, but also was able to make meaning and serve as a point of advocacy within the community. A truly, truly inspiring story that I love to tell when we're hosting new groups of volunteers, that which we do, a couple of times a year, bringing new folks to the table. Her presence is still here. She and the Detweiler family still has possession of the whole property that we're on, and has always graciously, I should say, made the space available to us, either in kind or for very nominal fee. And Lynn is still a member of our board, and just an amazing resource for us as we continue to grow. The Power of Art gave way to additional programs from sort of our teens, our older population. We've begun a curriculum called Emerging Voices, so that the power of art is for our elementary aged kids, and our middle school and high school aged kids are going into uh, the Emerging Voices, and then a whole array of community based programs. I know that Lynn had this very big vision for the community and for these services, and we're continuing along her path, and I think forging new paths as well.
Oh, that's amazing. Um, how many students do you serve? You said you have an elementary program and more of a high school program. So what does that look like?
So it's a great question. Those programs, our signature programs, also are complemented by an alumni component for each, right? So the kids that we are serving in our full academic year-long Power of Art program, for example, a child would be enrolled and start the program in September, and then go all the way out, more or less on a weekly basis, following uh, the calendar and holidays and so forth. But that program would go all the way out till June. Same with the children in the emerging, or the teens in the Emerging Voices program. So those signature programs are year-long programs um, that enroll in the summer, and or at the end of the summer, and begin at the beginning of the school year. And the programs are intentionally kept small, right? These are smaller groups that have about 5 or 6, sometimes 7 or 8, depending on the makeup of the group. But we won't really enroll more than 7 or 8 children in each of our groups, because we know that there's going to be a complement of adult mentors coming along with those kids. So for each young person that we enroll, we have a one-to-one mentor available for that child for the whole program year, which is really, really wonderful and critical to our program success. So those folks are paired up at the beginning of the year, and we're going to engage in our trauma-informed curriculum on a weekly basis, as I said, for 90 minutes a week, where we'll all come together after school. Our youngest Power of Art kids are going to meet at 4:30 in the afternoon, and going to be led through a really cool project that has sort of a metaphor and some psychoeducation built into it, something that's going to maybe teach a little bit about the skills of resilience, right? Because that's what we're really trying to impart with our children. So those small groups are going through and having a lot of fun with the project. But of course, creativity doesn't just stop with one project. So most times and most sessions, kids are afforded time to really explore their own creativity and build and play and engage in games and socialization and just connection with their mentors. Those programs, those signature programs, along with their alumni components, serve about 60 to 80 kids a year. And the alumni components, I should say, when they're finished with that year-long experience, whether they're in the Power of Art or Emerging Voices, those kids can come back on a monthly basis and meet up again with their classmates from their own group, but also kids from other groups. Some of our kids, I should say, in terms of retention, some of our kids start in Power of Art as young people, right? Third, fourth grade. And they join us in the alumni component of Power of Art until they're ready for Emerging Voices as a middle schooler. So, the kids have stuck with us in our community for a while, and it's a really special thing. So those programs are kept intentionally kind of small, but as I was mentioning earlier, we have an array of community-based programs, our on-the-go programs. Whenever I'm leaving the barn with art supplies under my arm, I'm going out to do an on-the-go program, and that can take place at the library or the middle school or one of our local elementary schools. We have a number of different partners in the community, and those programs really those open up to much wider audiences. And there, I would say we're up in the hundreds by the time we, because those are maybe one weekend program or a 6-week program during the summer, or I go to one elementary school every Monday and see the same 22 kids, and boy, do we have a really great time making art after school. So these are kids that are in our community and part of an after-school homework group, So, those kinds of opportunities are taken as well. And in those cases, we're not necessarily working with a population that is specifically at risk. We're working with a pretty typical school population. But within that, we are reaching kids that maybe have experienced some adversity in their young lives. As 67% of the population has had at least one adverse childhood experience. So those programs kind of uh, serve quite a few more kids as well.
When you talk about, you refer to it as ACE, adverse childhood experiences.
Experience, yeah.
What I guess my question is there are there themes? Are there certain types that are more predominant than others for trauma? Like, I'm not even sure how I want to frame that question. Like,
Right.
are there certain types of traumas that show up more than others at certain ages?
Hmm.
Does that make
That's an
sense?
interesting question. So I will approach it by saying again that childhood adversity is a pretty common thing. So ACEs really refers back to an important study from the mid '90s between Kaiser Permanente and the CDC, and basically this study of about 16,000, 17,000, something like that, adults in the United States demonstrated that the presence of adverse childhood experiences, things like abuse or neglect, of course, but also things like mental illness within the home, a parent's mental illness, or substance abuse, or a number of other environmental traumas. The presence of those would predict or correlate to negative health outcomes later in life, things like
Okay.
COPD, diabetes, heart disease, early mortality, right? The greater this was a dose response kind of reaction. So the more trauma that existed, the higher your ACE score in childhood, the greater your risk for these negative health outcomes later.
Okay.
This was a population that was largely, pretty typical and largely Caucasian, college educated. So this, breaks through what we would think of as, like socioeconomic kinds of things or other kinds of factors. So that's really what Lynn was responding to. That's what we continue to use as one of our touch points
I
here at
think you
Barnes.
answered my question. Yeah, I
Yeah,
kind of what
gotcha.
I was a
Sorry,
little
sorry.
bit
I don't want
more
to go into the
into
deep
what that
dive
looked
on.
like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Um, how do students, families learn about who you are and what you do? Are you referred from like guidance counselors or doctors or like what does that referral system look like?
The short answer is yes. So we're in touch with our community mental health partners, of course, our friends here in Chester County, Child and Family Focus, Devereaux, Creative Health in Pottstown. All of those certainly are, parts of those organizations are aware of what we're doing, of course, the social work and many of the therapists. But we also have great relationships with, of course, the Phoenixville Area School District, the guidance counselors and social workers there, as well as Great Valley and some of the local districts. They have staff. But then, really, frankly, our strongest driver in terms of enrollment and referral is word of mouth.
Mm.
Parents whose kids have finished the program, or who have heard about us, or who have mentored, have shared. Uh, I love to just really quickly. I've had two instances. One where a young person who was participating in our Power of Art observed a peer on her bus who was in distress. She approached that peer, talked with that peer, and went home and recommended that the family help that peer get in touch with Barnstone Art for Kids, which I thought was about the best testimonial I could ever ask
Yeah,
for as a
absolutely.
program person, right? So very, very fortunate that we are spend a lot of time in the community, that we are trusted in the community, and that the community sees us as a part of, part of the family. So we're very lucky.
Very cool. Now you started as a mentor. So how do volunteers play into your whole organization? You talked about pairing up with every student has a mentor. Can you
Mhm.
just explore that a little bit with us?
I mean, so our our mission here is to leverage the power of art and community connection to facilitate adversity in children who experience, to facilitate, excuse me, uh, um, resilience in kids who've experienced adversity, right? So that community connection piece is the first piece. I think that our volunteers are critical to our existence. We are not able to deliver the impactful services that we do without the robust uh, group of volunteers that have come to work with us and have so generously given their time. Volunteer experiences here really range and can be mentors. Our mentor experience is pretty intensive. I want to say it's intensive with joy. It's intensive with sharing and a sense of community. You are immersed in a group for basically a full year, and the idea that you're going to just walk away from that, having not had some experiences, you're going. It's going to leave a mark, and it's going to leave a really great one. So the sense that we are engaging with people, our neighbors, and our volunteers from the community, they are very much creating that community connection that we speak about in our mission for our kids. Um, the reality there is that folks also give up their time here in a number of different ways. We have because our mission is so closely aligned with art and use of art. We have, gosh, the embrace of the larger community of artists, the creative community in Chester County, specifically in Phoenixville. Give a shout out to Phoenixville, which is small and mighty in our arts community, but really growing. We have such amazing friends there as well, who come out to help us with all of our. We have a really big event coming in just a few weeks, and that really is it's our Barnstone Live Art Spectacular. So we're going to have 20 artists making art live that will then be auctioned off to the public. So they're helping us with our fundraising. They're helping us by donating artworks of their own, and then from there and just other more typical ways, help with event planning, help with some of the stuff that we've got going around here. Our board is, of course, a completely volunteer board. Unbelievable talent and time commitment coming from that group as well. So, they're helping us with the physical operations of our program. They're helping me with the advocacy messages that I get out. They are critical in every sense of our fundraising efforts. And there's a sense of, I think, with this whole thing, right? It's both ways. There's a sense of shared investment because the children and the families that we are serving are part of our community. They are the people that we live next door to. So, of course, we want to make sure that they're well and make sure that they're safe. So that's I think about how important volunteers are, and the kinds of folks that present themselves here. Um, and it's not, I don't. I think everyone here is so special, and I love every one of our volunteers, right? But it's not like we have a line of Mother Teresa's out the door. We have a line of human beings who live in the community and work really hard, but also give hours of their time each week, right? And that is miraculous, and it's amazing, and I feel like I've got folks that are coming from professional backgrounds that certainly reflect what we're doing here, teaching backgrounds and arts backgrounds and so forth, and healthcare professions as well, because this really does operate very much kind of like a quasi mental health resource, right? Barnstone is very keen on using empirical work and empirical information to deliver our programs and to inform our programs. So the training that these folks are getting is based in what the science is giving. So they're very much keen on making sure they're up to speed with what's happening with the kids and concerned and interested about what does this mean for this child, and how are we going to behave, or what language can we use to be of best service to this family. And that to me is it's just thoughtful. It is uh, you know altruistic. It's all of the wonderful things in humanity on display here, and it's working. It really does. I had mentioned some of my early experience as a volunteer with Lynn was in helping to develop the mentor evaluation tool, which is just an observational tool that gives us a little bit of feedback, and we deliver that, we deploy that at 4 times a year, and our mentors basically rate what they're seeing from their children each of those data collection points, and that gives us the information to suggest that our kids are engaging with their materials more confidently, that they're socializing more comfortably, that they're making eye contact. Just the
Yeah.
act of making eye contact, and spontaneously verbalizing in groups. Many of the kids that we work with are kids that are internalizing. Right, they're very quiet, very shy. That is not untypical of childhood, frankly, but
Right.
also, if I'm experiencing something that is overwhelming or have experienced something that has overwhelmed me, it can make me a little apprehensive. It can make me very apprehensive. So this is a space where we are creating, in every sense, we're creating a sense of nurturance, a sense of belonging, and a sense of safety.
Sounds like it's a very brave space.
I would say that we try and facilitate bravery, and I think that
Yeah.
our kids are extraordinarily brave, and children I think have an incredible sense of bravery.
Yeah.
We can the world can stifle it, and the
Yes.
world can do some real damage to that bravery. But I think that communities and individuals like the ones we're talking about here, like your listeners, your
Yeah.
subscribers are, um, you know, those are the folks that are able to help with that lift.
I think they get it because they
Very-
tune in. They understand the power of um, being in someone's life.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So you've kind of touched on in different pieces, but do you have a story of impact, some like a just one that just comes to your mind immediately of the work that you do and directly seeing a change or um, a, just it being manifested in that child's life or family's life? Can you share?
Okay, so yeah, and this is I have like a fresh from the headlines update,
Ooh.
and it's because this family is always in our hearts and always sort of in touch. But so this predates, I think, even my mentorship experience. But one of my board members is named Kathy. And Kathy has been on my board for the last couple of years. But of course, Kathy started out as a mentor. So many people start off here as mentors, and we can't get rid of them. They just stick around forever. Anyway, Kathy has been and as was one of the mentors very early in the organization's existence. And the family and the kids that Kathy connected with, um, the connection was like super glue. It was immediate. They spent their Power of Art year together, really creating a meaningful connection that stuck. And this family became so just woven into our family, and vice versa. So the connection between Kathy and the family, and this was multiple siblings after a while, because multiple kids had come through the Power of Art, but Kathy and Barnstone had stayed in there over years. Again, coming back and doing the curriculum when they were teens, and coming back for those alumni programs that I was referencing earlier. Um, and just Kathy, I should have also mentioned, is an author and had written a book. It's a amazing. She's written a few books actually, but this particular book was one of her cookbooks. She's a chef and pretty renowned, amazing chef. And I opened her book, and she had dedicated her book to the family that she worked with, and the children specifically. And I just saw that inscription the other day and I was like heartwarmed all over again because their story's always close and we're always sort of in touch, of course. And then just recently I was in touch with the family's mom, Drina, and Drina was talking about the college plans for the kids. And they're all doing, they're doing good. There's, the family is still, every family has their challenges and things like that. But the kids are still connected, and I'm, tearing up. So there you
Oh,
go. That's a
no,
pretty
there
good
you go.
story.
That's
Yeah, it's a really
amazing.
good story.
I love hearing, that's one of my favorite parts of the conversations, like hearing the impact where you can
Yeah,
truly see where your heart is affecting someone's future.
yeah, and it's incredible. I mean, I'm so happy to report that that is one story, and that I could tell you, a number of other, stories of kids that have stayed with our programs, or of families that have, stayed in touch, and we've managed to just do things, that have benefited the family, or the family has come back, and kids, our kids that have participated in our Power of Art. Um, um, are in high school, and many are turning back and saying, "Can I help? I'd love to help with the little kids." Um, Man, that's really a wonderful environment to be a
That's
part of.
full circle.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah,
So I get to help facilitate that, and but I am hardly responsible for it. It is a community that requires nurturance and everything, but I'm one person among many who's part of that nurturance. So I'm very lucky in that regard.
okay. We're gonna switch a little bit. Instead of
Okay,
We're gonna pivot a little bit to you. You
okay.
start as a mentor. So first of all, what spoke to you, that kind of ignited this path?
Hmm. So for Barnstone, it was Lynn, a friend of
Okay.
mine, Tom, another artist, and I'm an artist and art therapist, and
Right.
so all of that. But in the local arts community, my friend Tom years ago said, "You've got to meet this woman, Lynn, who has started this organization called Barnstone Art for Kids." And when I met Lynn, really, when she will give you tingles, the whole thing, when she tells that story, and excuse me, when she tells that story, and that I was sold. But for me, I was already somebody very much immersed in the nonprofit community. My whole career has been spent in the nonprofit world, and then prior to that, I've always had a sense of service that goes all the way back to my childhood, and my mom's and my family's influence. But yeah, Lynn was a very, very compelling story, and just an amazing leader. And you just wanted to be a part of what she was doing. And this effort, again, when we were doing my first mentor experience was over at the domestic violence shelter, and was coming from being a therapist and a clinical administrator. So the work really was combining in a sense, but I saw the impact of the work that was going on at Barnstone Art for Kids, and really, as important as formal mental health services are, to children and families and all of us, right? We need therapists, we need psychiatrists, all of those folks. But the grassroots kind of volunteer led, kind of efforts, exactly like Barnstone Art for Kids, were having real impacts. And I found that to be very compelling as a professional, as a clinician, and just that never left my mind. And so when I joined the board, and when I saw, it really didn't strike me when Lynn announced her retirement, that I was going to jump in. I went home and kind of was complaining to my wife. I was like, "Well, Lynn is retiring, and now we have to find a new executive director." And my wife kind of looked at me like, "Boy, you are silly. You should be throwing your," and it took a minute, but yeah. So it just never seemed like anything more natural could
Oh,
happen.
that's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you could put it into 60 seconds or less, why do you volunteer?
because I'm a human being. And again, yeah, so I'm a pretty soft, I'm a sensitive guy, and I will definitely start crying again if we don't watch. But because we're human beings, and I think that human beings as social animals, we it is in our nature to try and help one another, to try and make sure that our community is safe. We know that we live in communities. We know that we have, you know, people among us in our own backyards who need help. And if I am able to provide that, if I'm able to, lift up my neighbor, then my community is lifted up, and I'm lifted up. So that was something that for me was really ingrained from very early on. But service in general, it is just the sense of altruism, the good things that come through it from it for me have always been, um, you know, dwarfed by the things that I always I feel filled up from my volunteering, but I always love the impact that I see in the communities that I've lived in and worked in. So it is a no-brainer, I think, and I think that um, it benefits my health. It is core to my feeling well in my life, and I think that that's true for so many people that we work with here. And I know that I'm over a minute, but I will say our mentor experiences. So many of our mentors have come and they said, "I signed up thinking I was going to help kids," and I really do believe, they believe that they themselves have been the primary one who's been helped. That is incredible to me, and that's a reason to volunteer.
Absolutely. Okay, we're moving along. I
All
have a
right.
question that I ask all my listeners,
Okay.
all my guests. Um,
Yes.
can you share a blooper? Something that didn't, I don't want to say that it went wrong. It just didn't go as planned.
Hmm.
And what did you learn from the experience? I'm working with kids. I'm sure you have a lot of them.
Yeah. So actually, so that's a great question, and so it's going to sound a little silly, and I don't necessarily, but so this has to do with sort of the sense of bringing volunteers on to help, right, and the efforts that. And so I'm somebody that somebody that wants to make sure that everybody has the greatest experience and that we have the most impactful volunteer experiences, right? And there was a time not that long ago. It's just so that it's meant that I've always had sort of known exactly how many volunteers I need, and we'll have that group out. So if I need 10 volunteers, I'm going to have 10 volunteers. Well, I was presented with an opportunity to have many more volunteers than I thought that I needed. But it was important, and I wanted to engage these new friends, right? Um, and I applied the more the merrier, and it was against what I had historically done. Um, that experience of being somewhat initially like overwhelmed. We had so many helpers, so many hands, but we all found things to do, and we all found important tasks and had important conversations. So blowing up my number of volunteers and saying, just throwing the doors open and saying, you know what, come on in, let's learn about about our what we do here, and that was for me a big learning and a big experience of folks who want to help. Give them the opportunity, and they'll find ways to help. So that was a sort of a blooper. Does that fit as a blooper?
That totally fits.
Excellent.
I absolutely love it. Now, but before I give you the mic, I
Okay.
want you to share what's on your walls behind you. I
Oh,
see the sign for community, but I see some artwork. Is this done by the students?
so yes, there's actually you're seeing a couple of different things here. So there's artwork here. That's my this is my to-do list, and there's a bunch of things there. So that's all artwork from kids that I've collected. And then yeah, the artwork that you're seeing here. Let's see, that one, two, oh no, three, four. All of that is artwork. And then the community banner is a gift. It is a piece of artwork by Lisa Congdon, who is a wonderful artist that you should all look up. who makes some beautiful, beautiful, vibrantly colored artwork. But this gift was from a friend of mine named Julie, who is a part of a wonderful, she's the leader at a wonderful organization, nonprofit called Art Fusion 465. I forget the zip code, but Art Fusion over in Pottstown. And Julie gave me that because she's a part of my community. Well, I'm part of her community. And yeah,
That's
again, two
amazing.
arts organizations supporting one another.
Absolutely. You have to.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Sean, I'm going to give you the mic. And I want you to love, capital letters, love, kind of like the Philly love. I want you to
Yes.
love on Barnstone Art for Kids. Your students, your mentors, the pro, whatever. Just love on them.
Okay, that's easy for me to do. The people here, I've been treated, and this is like one of my favorite times of year because we're preparing for our big fundraiser, and everybody knows that all of our programs here at Barnstone are completely free. We don't charge anybody anything for our programs, and that's a really, really important thing that I want to keep going. It should be important to have art accessible and all of that. So we have to work hard at our fundraising opportunities. And everybody knows that our Barnstone Live Art Spectacular is coming. My community has been exceptional, as they are every year. But it's this amazing time when all of our friends, families, our mentors, our art friends, our artists, our kids, the families of our kids, everyone is pitching in to make this an exceptionally successful time for our organization. There is this sense of ownership amongst the folks that are volunteering here and the folks that provide our mentor services and our all of the things that the good things that happen here. So I'm filled, overwhelmed with love for them. The fact that they just show up without almost needing to be asked. I wrote an email just a couple of days ago to a friend inviting them because I needed them. We, needed them specifically for our event, and I'm telling you, it was less than a minute that I got the response back. I will see you at the event. Tell me what you need, and I will make it happen. That kind of just giving, that kind of unconditional generosity is so evident amongst the people here, whether it's their time or their resources. We have people that are invested in so many different ways that I don't know how I could begin to adequately tell them what that this they mean to me personally, but to this community as well. And I know what they mean to kids. I see children, the impact that this work has on kids, and it's really deeply meaningful. Um, so that is, I'm filled with that love. I'm filled with this grateful love that, yeah, it pours out of me and looks like tears sometimes, but
Nothing wrong with that.
yeah, yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. All right, Sean, thank you for being my guest today. I really enjoyed our conversation. I want to add me to your mailing list. I can't guarantee I'll come to your fundraiser, but if I know about it, I will try
I
because I want to see all of this in action. That would be amazing.
think
So and I just love the fact that what you do is helping children heal, give them the tools to navigate what's in front of them. I think that's just absolutely amazing.
thank
To my listeners, I know you found value in today's conversation. So please rate and review it wherever you're listening because it really does encourage others to get out and help transform the fabric of our society. So until next time on The Art of Volunteering, have an amazing day.